Ask you to start straight away.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. We start the afternoon second session. Our next witness is Dr. Tran, who will give evidence remotely. Dr. Zamit Borda would handle this witness.
Testing. Hello. Dr. Tran.
Yes, take it.
Before we begin this session, I would like to repeat the warning that Mr. Vetch made before we broke for break, that as far as I understand it, your presentation contains photographs with some distressing images. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, so this is a warning for people to either look away or be prepared. Dr. David Tran has been a practicing child and adolescent psychiatrist in the US for the last 25 years. He was previously a clinical assistant professor at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. He's also founding member and vice president of the Vietnam Democracy Center. In this report, he outlines how an overland trek into Southeast Asian countries has been an increasingly common route of escape for Uyghurs fleeing from Xinjiang. Vietnam is one of the chosen routes. However, Chinese authorities, as part of a campaign against the so-called jihad immigration, have responded forcefully to Uyghurs fleeing towards Vietnam. Would you like to begin with your presentation, Dr. Tran?
Yes, sir. I'll give a brief summary. As the council has spoken, this journey has been increasingly common for Uyghurs to escape from Xinjiang. Between 2011 and 2015, around 15,000 Uyghurs tried to escape via Southeast Asia. Chinese reports also suggested that Southeast Asia is the preferred route out of the country. Vietnam is one of the chosen routes, as the Chinese nationals do not need a passport to cross the border, just a travel permit, which is easy to obtain. Just for a period of 8 months, from May 2014 to January 2015, statistics from China's Ministry of Public Security revealed that Chinese border authorities, in their campaign against the so-called jihadi immigration, quote, have busted 262 human smuggling cases, seized 352 suspects who allegedly organized such activities, and 852 suspects who attempted to cross the border illegally. If I can have the first slide or pictures. On April 18, 2014, Vietnamese border guards and the police, acting on a tip from the Chinese, intercepted and killed 5 Uyghur males. This happened at the border between Vietnam and China, and I think if the pictures would come up, you can see the at the middle circle. This is where it happened. This is the border map between Vietnam and China. Vietnam is in the bottom of the pictures, and China is on the top. At the border gate was where the interception and killing happened. The rest of the group of 16, which included 4 women and 2 children, were handed over to the Chinese authorities within hours. On the same day, Vietnamese authorities arrested another 21 Uyghurs from China after being alerted by the Chinese authority that the group was trying to enter Vietnam by sea. This happened at the second location, if you can see on the right of the photo, at the second red circle on the right. In December 2014, police in Guangxi shot dead one Uyghur and detained a group of 21 people, described in the Chinese state-run media as the, quote, religious extremists, unquote, who had been trying to cross the border in Vietnam at Pingshangs. And this is at the circle on the left. In spite of what the state-run media described the group as the religious extremists, and employees of the detention center reported that the group consisted entirely of women and children. Al Jazeera reported this group consisted of 19 children. In January 2015, Chinese police shot and killed 2 members of the Uyghur ethnic minority trying to flee into Vietnam, and quote, had arrested hundreds of people since the year before in an effort to staunch illegal immigration into Southeast Asia, unquote. The police was seen in pursuit of a third suspect who fled into an area near Guangxi's Pingshan city. Local residents were asked to take part in the security checks, including the manhunt for the third suspect. Chinese authorities are known to encourage the local people in southwestern China to report groups of Uyghurs traveling together. Uyghurs are often placed under much tighter security restrictions than other Chinese citizens, facing delays of several years in getting passports. Desperate to leave China, Uyghurs pay more than 100,000 yuan each, or $15,000 to human smugglers and make their way across the border, where many times they would unknowingly meet a hostile welcome. Despite this, the significant flow of Uyghurs, the UN Refugees Agency, UNHCR, has operated an office in Hanoi, Vietnam for decades, but so far it has not received any Uyghur refugee applications. The repatriation of Uyghurs in Vietnam also happens in other countries, Thailand, Malaysia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Turkey. I will stop here for further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tran. I've got 3 questions for you, please. In your report, you refer to a campaign of the Chinese authorities against a jihadi immigration. What is this campaign against jihadi immigration?
My understanding is that they believe that these are terrorists, and they have tried to shut down the immigration of the refugees from China into Vietnam and other Southeast Asian countries. I think there's an effort that to stop that migration.
Thank you for that. And I'm not sure whether or not you have the information to answer my second question, but I will attempt it anyways. Mm-hmm. Do you know whether there has been any notable increase in the numbers of Uyghurs fleeing Xinjiang since 2017-18, as compared to previous years, for instance?
I don't have that information, and my belief is that the number of immigration or refugees has increased based on anecdotal evidence, mostly because of the number of illegal immigration has increased recently. There's no description of Chinese nationals since the Vietnamese press has eliminated that description recently. So we don't have the specifics about who's actually trying to immigrate into Vietnam.
Thank you for that. And my third and final question, also, I'm not sure whether you have the information to answer, but I will attempt it anyway. This relates to one of the photos in your report. You have a photo of a group of elderly Uyghur women and children being stopped at the border and being returned to China. And my question to you is, have you got any information on the fate of Uyghurs attempting to flee who are captured and returned to China?
Can I, if I can have the pictures up of that group, and then if I can get into the specific about that incident. This is an incident that happened on April 18, 2014. One group of 16 Uyghurs allegedly escaped detention by the Vietnamese border guards and apparently barricaded themselves in a building on the Vietnam's side of the border. Chinese police officers and Vietnamese border guards surrounded the building and killed on the Uyghur men. The details of the incidents, the best that we can find is that at 5:30 a.m. That day, April 18, 2014, Vietnamese border guards were informed by the Chinese that a group of Chinese nationals were attempting to enter Vietnam illegally. The Vietnamese border guards and the police intercepted the group and detained 16 people, including 10 men, 4 women, and 2 children. The police and guards immediately took the refugees to the border gate, called the Chinese authorities, and waited to hand the refugees over to the Chinese. At about lunch, 1 p.m. or so, according to the official Vietnamese version, the Uyghurs attacked the Vietnamese police. And after that, 5 Uyghurs were killed, most of whom had allegedly committed suicide by leaping from a multi-story building. Again, this is according to the official Vietnamese version. And others were gunned down by Vietnamese police and border guards. The Chinese government, who was also on the scene, has admitted that the refugees involved in this clash with the Vietnamese border guards are from Xinjiang, but did not mention anything about them attacking the Vietnamese police. Other eyewitnesses reported that the deceased Uyghurs were in handcuffs. So it was raising doubts about the Vietnam's official account of this fatal incident. If I can see the next photo of the bodies, again, with disclaimer, this photo shows bodies, apparently male, being stuck on several carts after the incident, and they were getting ready to be transported back to China. The next picture show women and young children being returned to China. If I can see the next pictures. I'm sorry, the one before that. They are being returned to China as the Uyghurs, the quote, extremists and terrorists, unquote. Some of the deportees have been sentenced to life imprisonment on reaching China. That's an answer to your question. one person of the group, if I can see the last pictures. Her name is Rizwan Thurston. She was 18 when this happened, and she would be 25 now. Was one of those women. She has vanished completely in the police custody. Her father broke 3 years silence to ask for information on her whereabouts and condition. He had successfully escaped with his family, with other family members into Turkey the year before. He said that he have not learned anything about the fate of my daughter since the day she was deported to China. And so far, none of my relatives in my hometown have been informed of any charges against her, nor have any of my friends or neighbors, unquote. According to their families, not just in this incident, but other incidents, many of the Uyghurs who were detained by the Vietnam's authorities or returned to China have disappeared while in custody, and nothing have been heard about them.
Thank you, Dr. Tran. That's very helpful. Chair, over to you.
Dr. Tran, you are, I believe, a medical doctor in the United States of Vietnamese heritage. Can I ask?
Yes.
Can I ask why you, how you came to pursue this line of inquiry about Uyghur migrants into Vietnam?
My organization have been working with groups within Vietnam about to promote democracy for Vietnam, and this came just by accident. Some of the groups that we're working with were given information about the plight of the Uyghur, as we were talking about that. As the investigation of Uyghur genocide was coming into the news.
So your interest related to aspects of democracy in Vietnam?
Yes, ma'am.
And could you tell us more about the sources for the information that you've given us in your now and in your report? What are your sources for this information?
Some are from the contacts we have, and some are from the groups that we're working inside Vietnam. I'm sorry, I'm not at the liberty of giving out their names.
So would you say that this is, that you feel that the facts that you have outlined are thoroughly verified?
Yes, we have verified through a couple of sources.
You tell us that a reason that this has become a route out of China is because you just need a travel permit to come across the border into Vietnam. Could you tell us more about how that works, how people obtain a travel permit to come?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
And at the border, there's presumably Chinese border authorities checking documents as well as Vietnamese border authorities.
Yes, ma'am.
You provide information in the report about the increase of trafficking. They say hundreds of people are crossing using traffickers. What can you tell us about the traffickers?
I don't have that information for you, ma'am. I know that the activity has have increased within recent years, but I don't have any specific information about that activities.
And how do you know about the amount that that is quoted in the report that has to be paid to traffickers, which I think you say is around $15,000, which I think is perhaps just to get to the Vietnamese border?
Right. That information has been published in the past. I think I have reference for that in my statement. I don't remember the exact publication, but that's one in my references.
So a press report, I think.
A press report, yes.
You talk about the hostile reception at the border that Uyghurs receive at the border, and this incident that you also just telling us about here in the report, you state that it's conflicting evidence about actually what happened.
Yes.
So do you think it is actually possible for us to know what happened, whether people were shot, whether they jumped from the building?
I don't think that we would ever know the true story about what happened. I think there was the Vietnamese report. There's also the Chinese report. There's also reports that we have from the local people. I mean, according to the local villagers, the information that I have is that there was no attack on the Vietnamese police, and then that seemed to be collaborated with the Chinese report, who was also on the scene. The Vietnamese report, the official report, say that the attackers actually, the Uyghurs actually grabbed a gun, an AK-47 assault rifle from one of the Vietnamese border guards and started shooting. That's the only thing we have from the Vietnamese official report.
An aspect of the story is that Chinese police officers were there on the Vietnamese side of the border, as well as Vietnamese border guards. Would that be usual for Chinese police officers to be operating within Vietnam?
I think that would be a politically sensitive question to answer. I think that they should not have been there. But the reports that we have is that they were there on the scene after being called by the Vietnamese side, and they actually assisted in the situation with the detention and eventual killing of the Uyghurs.
Another aspect of the hostile reception you mention is that Vietnamese at the border detain Uyghurs. Do you have any evidence whether other nationals of China are detained at the border with China?
The information we have is that the border is actually very porous between Vietnamese, between the Vietnam and China, and actually not many were detained or arrested. Most of the migration is actually going the other way from Vietnam to China for jobs and other purposes. Is the migration from from north to south is a lot more uncommon.
You talk about the Vietnamese press being quick to cover up the 2014 incident. Can you tell us how you know that?
First, we saw initial reports of this in the official news, and those were quickly taken off and is no longer available. If you search for information regarding this incident, it's known as the back function Bordergate incident, and there's no mention of it anywhere on any official websites. We know that Vietnam, like China, they have strict control of the press. So there's thousands of news and press in Vietnam, but they're very similar in the way that they present information. And I think if we search for it now, there's no pictures, no images, no information regarding this what happened.
Okay. You mentioned in the report that families say that refugees who have been detained have disappeared while in custody, either in Vietnam or once returned to China. How have you heard those allegations?
That has also been reported in the press. There's the references to that question specifically. I don't remember it was the report by the Radio Free Asia or another press agencies, but I can give you that information if you would like.
Thank you. And that those reports specifically say people have disappeared in Vietnam as well as once returned to China.
Yes, ma'am.
So perhaps just as a bit of context, could you tell us a little bit about the relationship between China and Vietnam? You mentioned that you feel that this evidence, the quick return of bodies and the other cooperation suggests that there is a Vietnam-China deal on the Uyghurs, which you say is in contravention of international law. So could you perhaps just tell us what the broader relationship is between Vietnam and China, the economic and political relationship between the two countries?
They're both communist states, and their political structure and are very much similar. Is controlled. Vietnam is controlled by the Vietnamese Communist Party, much like China is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. I think relationship, especially regarding the internal security, they are very closely connected, and they assisted each other in controlling the population. Vietnam received assistance from China in this aspect, from the technical support to financial support that they don't have. So I spoke about this problem. Because it's in a way is a violation of international human rights and humanitarian and customary law. It prohibits states from transferring or removing individual from their jurisdiction or effective control when there are substantial grounds for believing that the person would be at risk of irreparable harm upon the return of that individuals. And can include persecution, tortures, ill treatment, or other serious human rights violation. And under international human rights law, the prohibition of this refoulement is explicitly included in the Convention Against Tortures and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, and also in the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. So we see this as a human rights violations of the Uyghur people, and how this policy is being played out in Vietnam and other Southeast Asian countries.
Thank you. If, as you believe, there's a significant flow of Uyghur refugees into Vietnam, why do you think there have been no applications to the UNHCR office in Hanoi?
I think they were stopped from even getting there. I think most Uyghurs somehow was prevented from getting to the agency, most likely by the Vietnamese officials, and I think that also speaks to the collaboration between the two governments.
And do you know if Uyghurs do successfully get into Vietnam, where they may tend to move on to from Vietnam? Do you know anything about that?
It seems like the first migration is to a country like Vietnam or Southeast Asian countries, and then I think they from there they move. They usually don't stay in Vietnam, and they would try to have a second wave of migration to a second country, either Cambodia or a country that doesn't border with China, and then eventually to a place like Turkey, and then finally many of them would move one last time to United States or another Western countries like the UK.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tran. I have no further questions.
Chair. Oh, sorry.
Dr. Tran, in your statement, it seems that Han Chinese, or I assume it's Han Chinese citizens, only require do not require a passport to cross the border from China into Vietnam, but it seems that Uyghurs do need to pay, as you've stated, up to $15,000. In your view, is that because Uyghurs cannot obtain the pass required, and is there any evidence of a discriminatory policy in that regard?
I think it's difficult to have something of a proof that there's a difference in as far as a document, a policy document. But I think as far as practice, there's been publications about how difficult it is for Uyghurs to obtain passports, and I think that it's also reminded me of the fact that when you talk about this, you also worth noting that China is not pursuing the repatriation of the Han citizens who also illegally immigrated into Vietnam. So there's also a discrepancy there too. So we saw that the killing and the disappearance of the Uyghur refugees, irrespective of age and gender, it illustrates the practice of a much larger policy.
Thank you. My question is related to the last one. Have you any data on the number of travel permits that have been given to the Uyghur population?
I don't have that information. I'm sorry.
There must be some somewhere.
I'm sorry?
So there must be some somewhere, either in Vietnam
Yeah,
or...
right. I'm sure there is, yeah.
And the second question really is, what's China worried about in allowing the Uyghur population to leave China?
I think that they, again, this is just my personal opinion. I think at the beginning, the reason that they stated was because they want to prevent people, the Uyghurs, from taking up the terrorist activities outside of China and trying to regain independence for East Turkestan. But I think if we begin to see that a lot of the people that they arresting and that deporting back to China are children and women. So it seems like it's and this is not just limited to Vietnam. Is in my statement report, it involved at least 12 other countries. So there's a geographical dimension, and then there's a time dimension of more than a decade of trying to suppress this migration, the refugees. So it seemed to demonstrate an intent, but as far as their specific reason or intent, I don't have the answer to that. I can only speculate.
Can I just ask, sorry, one further question? Are the human traffickers Chinese or Vietnamese?
They're both Chinese and Vietnamese.
Chair, can I ask one supplementary question? Thank you. One very brief question, Dr. Tran, and the question really is why? Why would a Uyghur pay significant sums of money, travel hundreds of kilometers to seek asylum in a country that is run by the Vietnamese Communist Party and, as you said, has very strong and friendly relations with China? Why?
As I answered before, I think the target destination is not Vietnam. The target destination is another country that may, to them, may be more friendly to them, to their people. A country like Pakistan or Turkey, for example. And I think, as you already probably know, I think even that is becoming problematic for the Uyghur people.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Tran, you declined when asked to speculate about the reason. Feel free to give us your opinion, even if it is speculation, because we will be free to disregard it if we don't come to that or a similar conclusion by other means.
Well, so Jeffrey, if I can speak about the Amnesty International report, where recently they collated information from approximately 400 Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Uzbeks, and members of other ethnic groups living in 22 countries about people who live in abroad. And I think what they are doing with the Uyghurs abroad the harassment that they are facing may indicate the reason why the PRC is trying to stop these Uyghurs from leaving China or Xinjiang. Of the 400 people that they interviewed, 181 people were threatened when they tried to speak out. These are the harassment that the Chinese, either they're calling these Uyghurs to harass them or having the, for example, here in Houston, the Houston consulate, the Chinese Houston consulate, when it was still open, actually calling the Uyghurs, people, even with U.S. citizenship, to harass them and threaten them. 26 people of the 400 was also asked to be informants. 39 people receiving intimidating phone calls to obtain personal information about them. 21 people reported that the Chinese authorities had used social messaging apps to track and intimidate them. So the answer that I would speculate is fear of being criticized, fear of information about what happened in Xinjiang being exposed to the world.
Thank you, Dr. Tran. Thank you for making yourself available to give evidence. Please forgive my seeming discourtesy in not being here to welcome you when you started, but unavoidable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Our next witness is Bu Mariam Rosi, who will be giving evidence remotely. My colleague, Mr. Abraham, will be handling this one.